No one noticed when the human fleet went dark. That was the mistake. For 3 centuries, the Orion Spur had lived under a single assumption: power announced itself. Empires paraded fleets through neutral systems. Dreadnoughts burned suns during exercises just to remind lesser species of their place. War was loud, ceremonial, and visible long before it arrived. Humans had never done that. They traded quietly. They voted rarely. They avoided border conflicts and signed treaties that looked, to most species, embarrassingly modest. Their ships were functional, unadorned, and, according to every public registry, small. Their military doctrine, if one could call it that, emphasized defensive readiness and civilian protection, phrases that drew smirks in council chambers. So when human long-range beacons across 12 systems shut down within the same 40-second window, no alarms were raised. Not by the Car Dominion, whose war fleets controlled the trade arteries. Not by the Valrathi Compact, who taxed every jump gate worth owning. Not by the Grand Assembly, which had grown used to humanity's quiet presence like background radiation. Silence, after all, had always been humanity's default state. Admiral Marcus Hale stood alone on the command deck of the UNS Resolute, watching the last civilian convoy vanish into fold space. The stars beyond the forward viewport looked calm, indifferent, eternal. The deck smelled faintly of ozone and recycled air, the familiar scent of ships built to last rather than impress. All civilian traffic has cleared the exclusion zone, an officer reported, voice steady but tight. No external signatures. We are officially invisible. Hale nodded once. No speech, no dramatics. He had already said everything that needed to be said weeks ago, in rooms that would never appear in any historical record. When the Car Dominion seized the human colony of Eos 7, the official justification had been resource arbitration. The actual reason was simpler. Humans didn't look like they would fight back. The Dominion executed the Planetary Council publicly, broadcast the images across subspace, and expected negotiations within the hour. Humanity responded with a formal protest and a request for investigation. The galaxy laughed. 3 days later, the car blockade around Eos 7 collapsed, not under attack, but under confusion. Sensors malfunctioned. Patrol ships reported false contacts. Command relays glitched, then failed entirely. The Dominion blamed sabotage, internal dissent, even divine displeasure. What they never considered was preparation. Because while the galaxy measured power by tonnage and weapon yield, humanity measured it by endurance. The Resolute was not large by galactic standards. It didn't need to be. Its hull was layered with composite alloys developed not for elegance, but for surviving micro-impacts over decades of constant stress. Its reactors were redundant to the point of seeming wasteful. Its weapons, hidden behind retractable plating, were calibrated for precision rather than spectacle. This was not a ship built to win parades. This was a ship built to finish wars. Fleet status, Hale said quietly. 7th and 9th groups report green across all systems, came the reply. No emissions, no active scans. We are ghosts. Hale allowed himself a single breath. Human doctrine did not glorify war. It treated it like surgery, invasive, dangerous, and only justified when the alternative was worse. But when it came decisively. The first strike did not target ships. It targeted certainty. Across car-controlled space, navigation buoys began to drift out of alignment by fractions too small to notice at first. Trade routes lengthened subtly. Jump calculations returned marginal errors. Captains adjusted manually, assuming calibration drift. Then ships began missing their exit windows. A freighter vanished between systems, presumed lost to missed jump. Then another. Insurance rates spiked. Trade slowed. Panic whispered through merchant guilds long before any admiral admitted there was a problem. At the same time, car military logistics started failing in impossible ways. Fuel shipments arrived diluted. Ammunition stocks registered full but detonated under inspection. Communications lagged. Not enough to fail outright, just enough to disrupt coordinated action. Every problem, isolated, was manageable. Together, they were paralyzing. Hale watched the reports scroll past without comment. This phase was automated now, the result of years of quiet infiltration, algorithms seeded into infrastructure. No one thought to defend because no one had ever attacked it this way. "Admiral," an aide said softly, "Car High Command is mobilizing. They know something is wrong. They always do," Hale replied. Too late is still too late. The human fleet did not advance as a single armada. That would have been predictable. Instead, ships emerged independently, at points that made no tactical sense under traditional doctrine. Behind moons, inside debris fields, at the edge of sensor resolution, where most species filtered out noise to preserve processing power. Human sensors did not filter noise. They listened to it. The first direct engagement lasted 12 seconds. A car patrol cruiser detected what it thought was sensor static. By the time its captain ordered a closer scan, its reactor containment failed, not catastrophically, just enough to force shutdown. The ship drifted, powerless, crew alive but helpless, as human marines cut through the hull with surgical precision. No shots fired, no broadcast made. The cruiser vanished from the network. When Car Command finally ordered a full military response, they discovered a horrifying truth. They could not see the battlefield. Human ships did not announce themselves. They did not lock weapons until the moment of impact. Their drives left no recognizable signatures. Their communications were tightly beamed, encrypted beyond known standards. It was like fighting an enemy that existed only in hindsight. World after world fell into isolation as human task groups severed orbital infrastructure with minimal collateral damage. Defense platforms found their targeting solutions subtly corrupted. Automated systems shut down rather than risk firing on friendly assets. The humans were not conquering. They were dismantling. On EOS 7, the surviving colonists watched the Car garrison surrender without a fight. Dominion troops laid down their weapons, not because they had been overwhelmed, but because every system they relied on had quietly betrayed them. A human commander accepted the surrender with a nod and ordered medical aid for the wounded. On both sides. That image spread faster than any fleet movement. The galaxy stopped laughing. In the Grand Assembly, emergency sessions devolved into chaos. Delegates demanded explanations, condemnations, alliances. Analysts struggled to map a conflict with no clear front lines, no declared objectives beyond the liberation of a single colony. They asked the wrong question. They wanted to know how strong humanity was. They should have asked how long humanity had been ready. Hale stood on the Resolute's deck as the final phase began. The Car Dominion's central command station, an immense structure believed impregnable, hung before them, its defenses intact but blind. "Authorize broadcast," Hale said. For the first time since the conflict began, humanity spoke openly. "This is Admiral Marcus Hale of the United Nations Stellar Command. Your military infrastructure has been neutralized. Your fleets are immobilized. Your occupied territories are secure. You will stand down, withdraw from all human systems, and submit to arbitration under Assembly oversight." There was a pause, long, disbelieving. Then Car Command responded, fury barely contained, threatening annihilation, invoking ancient rites of conquest. Hale listened without expression. When the transmission ended, he gave a single order. "Show them." The Resolute's weapons came online, not in a blaze of light, but in a subtle distortion of space itself. A controlled discharge lanced out, not at the station, but at the void beside it. Space folded, compressed, then snapped back. The shockwave rippled through the region, disabling every remaining car system within range without destroying a single structure. It was not a demonstration of power. It was a demonstration of restraint. Silence followed. Then, finally, surrender. The war ended, not with a final battle, but with a collective realization spreading across the galaxy. Humanity had never been weak. It had simply refused to be loud. In the aftermath, Treaties were rewritten, military doctrines revised, sensor arrays recalibrated to listen for what they had once ignored, and in quiet shipyards across human space, new vessels continued to be built. Not larger, not more ornate, but just as patient. Because humanity knew something the galaxy was only beginning to learn. The most dangerous force in the universe is not the one that shouts its strength. It is the one that waits, prepares, and acts only when it must, and then does not stop until the job is done.